So he will be coming on 7th of September.
The guy definitely will do justice, because currently he has been delivering series of training now on ISO.
Yes.
I think on ISO currently. So environmental sustainability, environmental management system, it's all about the ESG.
Yes, he's very good at that. That's why I pleaded with him and he accepted.
The time will still be favorable for him. So yeah, no problem.
Okay, guys. Good evening, everyone.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Harrison, Obina, my namesake. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to have you join us here today. My name is Johnson Wala, and we are live on Safeoclock interactive workshop for health and safety professionals. Today we'll be discussing ergonomics. So if you've been missing our discussions, we have these recorded videos that you can watch on our YouTube channel, Safeoclock. So keep yourself updated and join us today as we discuss ergonomics. So without wasting much time, I will bring in our professor in the house, Mr. Stephen, to roll it up.
I am humble, fellow professionals, though I hope one day I'll become a prof. But we are still in the learning process. You know, this learning is a continuous process, as we all know. So today, I'll try to discuss on the ergonomic safety. As we all know, as a professional, the ergonomics is a topic that is it's also a kind of a broader topic, depending on the angle you want to approach it. You know, in some cases, some people will just specify on the ergonomics when it comes to office. Okay, there you talk about maybe sitting arrangement and all that. But in this context, we will not just focus on that alone. We have to look at ergonomics in general, you know, within the workplace in general. So that is where we'll be talking of some about musculoskeletal disorders, you know, that is a result of such unpleasant ergonomic activities that is being performed in the work site. So basically the purpose of this presentation is just to discuss the risks associated with ergonomic hazard while providing a kind of mitigation strategy to reduce such risk. So overview, we'll be looking at the definition of ergonomics. We just look at the OSHA guidelines as well. And we also try to look at the ergonomic stressors and also common ergonomics injuries, right? So because 1 hour might not be enough for us to be in depth. So, but I will just take one or two of the injuries that are common within the workplace while we discuss on it. So, you know, from the word ergonomics is derived from the Greek word, which meaning the law of work. Okay, and from my definition here, ergonomics is a science of adapting workstation, tools, equipment, and job techniques to be compatible with human anatomy and physiology to reduce the risk of musculoskeletal disorder injuries due to ergonomic stressors. So as we all know, stressors are what brings about these disorders, right? So basically, if you look at the definition, I try to bring out the definition that will cut across every aspect. Like I've said, in some cases, some people just focus ergonomics on maybe workstation, sitting arrangement, you know, so, but to a more extent, you know, on a broader knowledge, the kind of tools we use in the workplace, equipment, the job techniques, all these fall under ergonomics as well. Okay, so in other words, you know, this job needs to be fit, you know, fit to the person rather than person to the job. So that is what it is. So human need to, the arrangement, the ergonomic arrangement need to fit, to the job rather than it used to be in some site or construction site precisely. So when we look at OSHA guidelines, it focuses on industries and employer with known high injury and illness rates related to ergonomic hazard. There are some industries that are likely not to face this common hazard, associated with ergonomics, while there are some industries that have high percentage of this hazard present. So generally, OSHA guidelines has to do with the coordinating inspection with legal strategy designed to target preclusive ergonomic violation. Now, when there's a link here, we can also see the OSHA Act in case they want to cite any citation or violation regarding this, because most of the information I'm bringing is from the OSHA, so I did not have enough time to go through the British maybe guidance or regulation that has to do with this, but I just try to focus on guidelines from OSHA. So, and we all know from OSHA, we have a general duty clause that describes employer obligation to furnish to each of his employee to employee employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazard that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm to his employee. Now, if you look at the clause, is from the general industry, because these hazards that are common to ergonomics are all classified under the general industry. So if they want to cite any, they want to give a citation, they focus on these clauses. So now from, we all know that the injuries that result from ergonomic issues has to do with musculoskeletal disorders, okay? And these musculoskeletal disorders is as a result of repeated physical, the injury caused by repeated physical trauma or exposure to specific body parts, such as the back, the hand, wrist, or forearm. So this part of the body, to an extent, we can say, okay, maybe the upper extremity, the neck and back, and the lower extremity. So these are the most common part of the body that are being affected by such kind of activity we do, and thereby result to musculoskeletal disorder. Now, also, this musculoskeletal disorder are also known as cumulative trauma disorder, okay? Overuse syndrome. So they have different names. They can call it repetitive motion disorders. So in some text and all that, you could see them using this definition or terms interchangeably. So now we have to look at what causes these musculoskeletal disorders. And like I said initially, these are caused by stressors. And what are these stressors? These are things that we are familiar with. Okay, so now when you look at this slide, we talk about the workplace ergonomic stressor. Now, repetitive motion is an example of ergonomic stressor, okay? So, and also vibration, because when you walk in maybe like the shopping mall, for example, or you walk in an assembly line where you see people have to, an assembly line, you have to, this action is repetitive. The way you move things, it becomes repetitive. You also lift some material within the work site. You climb, maybe you climb staircase frequently. Those people who do painting, you try to paint, especially the ceiling, doing painting activity, typing, tools, your pre tools. So all these are the activity that you involve, you do this activity in a repetitive manner. So as a result of this can predispose such people to musculoskeletal disorder. And another stressor is coming from vibration. Especially in the construction industries, demolition industry, we find a lot of activity that are being done using vibration, like when you use your grinders, you use your sanders, you use drill, chisel, chainsaw, jackhammer, riveters, and all that. So these are, will I say, equipment or tools that generate vibration. You know, for you to successfully carry out all this activity, there must be one form of vibration or the other. So, and if you find yourself doing this kind of job for a long time, for years, I think such kind of people will be predisposed to this, to one or the other form of musculoskeletal disorder. And also, we have another stressor, which are excessive forces. You know, sometimes there are some things you do, you need to exert a lot of force, you know, in carrying out such activity, like maybe you try to lift some materials, you know, some manual handling activity like that. Okay, you also push, you pull, you move heavy object and things like that. So with this, you are exerting more force, you know, in order to pull or push these objects. And all this thing is coming from your hand because the forces have been applied with your hand. So all those things can predispose individuals to musculoskeletal disorder, and also awkward position. Like if you go through the pictures, you see that you could see this lady, she's trying to access maybe an item, but the way she's positioning herself is not proper. You have to stretch to an extent, you know, and all that. So those kind of things is to make you become, your position will become awkward. You know, you try to reach something lower in the shelf, holding an object far away from your body parts. And like I've said earlier, painting the ceiling, you know, all these things will give you some kind of movement or awkward position that over a long period of time, such individual will be predisposed to this musculoskeletal disorder. And now it is important for us to know that all these things, this stressor, what it does is that they are stress, okay? These stressors are what generates stress, because when you continue to push or do something in a repetitive manner, you undergo stress. So, but most people don't really understand that all these categories fall under stress. These are stressful work activity. And when the body is being engaged with such kind of activity, what happens? Last time we discussed something about stress, we know that the body secretes some form of chemical, you know, and things like that, and the action of this chemical is on the muscle. Okay, so like if you see what is written up here, that the body first reaction to stress, either physical or emotional, is muscle tension, which is fight or flight syndrome. Okay, so because those hormones will go, their target, this thing is the nerves, the muscles. Okay, so and once that is done within the muscle, it makes the muscle become tense. And once your muscle becomes tense, there's a saying that a tense muscle has much more of high risk of having musculoskeletal disorder. So because when this thing becomes repetitive, you discover that your body secretes more hormone and the target is on the muscles. And at the end of the day, those joints and all that are being affected, all are connected with the muscles, right? So now, as we all know that tight muscles are more susceptible to strain and sprain, you know, and once that happens, you begin to come out with a lot of inflammation, pains around maybe the wrist, the ankle, or the nail, depending on the kind of activity the person is being predisposed to. Now, we could see there's one good example, which are common, okay, within industries. Like here, I'm trying to focus on the upper extremity. And what is the upper extremity? We're talking about the hand, you know, we're talking about the elbow, like the shoulder, from the shoulder down to the hand. These are classified as the upper extremity. And if you look at what we have here on the slide, is that we have the hand-arm vibration syndrome, which is sometimes also called vibration white fingers. So these are one of the most common musculoskeletal disorders, you know, that are common within industries that have their worker being exposed to such kind of hazard. We also have the carpal tunnel syndrome. We also have the rotator cuff injury that affect the shoulder. You can see from the image, it's showing it to be specific where those injuries are targeted. Okay, so we have the one that affect the elbow, which is the epicondylitis. and we also have the trigger finger, the carpal tunnel syndrome. So this picture will just give us a pictorial view of where it's been affected within the upper extremity. So now there are what we call syndromes, of this hand-arm vibration syndrome. The definition is that it's a chronic disorder that can develop when hand is subjected to repetitive and prolonged exposure to vibration. Like I've said earlier, most often this damage is done to the blood vessels, nerves, and the muscle. Once this happens, most of the time, they are irreversible. So which means you cannot really correct them. So which means it becomes so permanent to the individual being affected. And from the America, according to National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, it is estimated that about 1.5 million of America, are using vibrating tools, and are likely to develop hand-arm vibration syndrome. So we have about also 5% of the general population who already are suffering from such musculoskeletal disorder. Then the symptom is like there's a called tingling and numbness of the finger and the palm. So these are, once you begin to feel such things, then you are likely to know that, yes, this person is suffering from HAVS, okay? So we have this spasm of the finger, we have blanching of the finger as well. And also there are some other factors, like we have said, when you repeat some kind of activity for a long time, these are risk factor. Improper use of tools. Some workers, they don't know how to use the tools properly. They don't follow the manufacturer instruction on the proper use of tools. So when you use it improperly, this will predispose such individual, and also when you hold this tool, when you have a kind of forceful grip on some tools, this also is also a risk factor. And also there are some conditions that might aggravate this, which is temperature, also damp environment, and smoking. Those who smoke, they have this predisposing factor to come up with this hand-arm vibration syndrome. So in other terms, like I said, they are called vibration white finger. Now, I'm just trying to show us this picture to see the kind of tools, for example, which we could use, most times that can predispose an individual. And also you can look at a picture of this person that is affected by such a musculoskeletal disorder. Okay, so, and one of the ways we can control it is to wear a full finger certified anti-vibration gloves that can reduce the exposure of vibration, because that's one of the control, that's a control measure, because sometimes this activity that probably you cannot say, okay, maybe there's no option for substitution, you have to do it. Then there are a lot of technology that have been deployed these days in terms of PPE, so this anti-vibration, instead it will absorb the vibration without having a direct effect on the individual hand while working. So we have to look at carpal tunnel, because I will just focus on the hand vibration syndrome and the carpal tunnel syndrome, because we have a lot, but for the purpose of time, maybe I'll also give people opportunity to have one or two knowledge we can now emphasize on some other points, okay? So when we look at the carpal tunnel syndrome, this is another most prevalent musculoskeletal disorder that are common. It occurs when the median nerves run through a passage in the wrist up to the hand, and it becomes compressed. And once there's a compression, it develops pain. And once there's a pain, it means there's an inflammation around that region where such effect is. Okay, so it can also cause damage to the hand and wrist, one of the fastest growing category of workers' compensation claim, in the United States. So the wrist injury accounted for more than half. So we could see why I try to focus on this. Wrist injury accounted for more than half of all MSDS, musculoskeletal disorders, okay, for disease. So And what is the cause? Like I've said, repetition, sustained exertion, awkward wrist and positioning. So symptom of it is tingling, and we also have pain in the hand and numbness of the wrist and muscle atrophy at the base of the thumb. So that atrophy is just like a dead tissue. So when your muscle dies at a particular spot, you will not even feel any pain because the nerves, everything there is damaged. So you understand the implication of such when one is using such equipment or tools to perform work activity. And it is known in America that about 5 million American workers suffer from repetitive stress injury to the wrist. So these are things that should be of concern, especially to us as a professional. Yeah, we just see these things because the effects are not immediate. Unlike somebody just go walking at height, he's not using PPE, protection, edge protection, and he falls immediately, you see the effect. So these are like hazard that when you are exposed to, the effect comes after some years. It's not immediate. It's not even under 1 year. So it can take longer than 2, 3, 4, 5 years, when you are maybe a specialist in using such kind of tools or equipment, So now when we look at like what I said about the carpal tunnel syndrome, we could see this image will really tell us what we're talking about, because these are transverse ligaments. These are what connects the muscles. Okay, so we have the flexor tendon, the medial nerves, because this is just a cross section of the carpal tunnel. Because when you look at the human anatomy, there's what we call the carpal tunnel. So that is where the name carpal tunnel syndrome is derived from, because it affects these areas, within the wrist. So that is where the name carpal tunnel syndrome comes in from. So we could see from this other image how how we flex our hands and all that and that. So once that is affected, we discover that we might not be able to perform some activity that this hand is capable of doing. So, and one of the best way to control it with the use of PPE is to use a flexible wrist support. Because if you could see some people, they do it. You understand? You see them putting some, even when you go to hospital sometime, you complain, they give you a kind of support to encourage a kind of neutral wrist position, so to limit the movement, because when it moves, it increases the strain and pressure within the area of the carpal tunnel. So, and there's also a common musculoskeletal disease of the neck and back. So because we have to combine the back, sometimes the way we position ourselves, especially those who work in the office, the way you set your computer, your workstation, all those things are very important. You need to have a proper rest, the back and everything, they're very important. And also in the workplace, manual handling, they do a lot of manual lifting activity and all that on a regular basis. So you see that a lot of people will be so predisposed, to muscle strain and lower back injury. So basically, all these things affect the muscles, affect the nerves, because you cannot rule out the muscle from the nerves. These are where it gets its ability to contract, to relax, and all that. So, as we all know that once injured, the risk of recurrence or whatever. So the low back injury represents over 90% of all injury claims. So we understand how important we should manage this kind of activity in the work site. Okay, and secondly, this neck and back injury is a common code is to the common code in terms of loss of work days. Okay, so what it means is that a lot of people have reported maybe sick leave, out of job, out of work for some days are due or as a result of this muscle strain and lower back pain. You just discover that, oh, you are stressed, you cannot work, you have to take some days off work. And this will definitely be contributing to the loss of the company, So, and maybe they need another person to cover up for that shift, which means they have to pay extra overtime. So I think when we implement a lot of things to reduce all these kind of things, and also preach or advocate within our organization, we can be able to convince them how to save costs. When you do the cost benefit analysis of all these things, you could see that there's a more benefit, than to prevent such thing from happening than just allowing things to be like that. And also from the America, they said back pain cost American business an estimated 30 billion each year. So you could imagine if such an amount of money is being lost every year just because of the issue of back pain. So there are so many things that should be of concern to us as an health and safety practitioner. And 4 out of every 5 people will experience back pain. So this, you don't necessarily need to work in the construction. Even those who work in the office are of high risk, of having back pain, especially when your workstation is not properly or is not ergonomically designed for your tasks. So you are likely to come up, workers are likely to come up with such. Okay, so we also have, what's it called, the tendinitis, and also osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. These are common to the lower extremity, but they are not as more common to the upper extremity and that of the neck and back. Okay, but for the osteoarthritis, maybe most frequently occur when the person is becoming aged, and things like that. It doesn't mean that it cannot affect younger people, because when you do activity where your knee has to suffer for all these things, definitely it will definitely come up with such osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis as well. Because the nail, those joints will become inflamed, and sometimes the synovial fluid will become affected. So instead of the fluid to protect the two joints, the joint will begin to, let me say, eat each other, and then you become, you feel pains and all that, become inflamed. So that is why I see some people who do much of standing activity as well, they end up, after 5 years, 6 years, they end up coming with issues like this. So I think these are things we should watch out for as a professional. And like I've said, there are conditions that also aggravate such conditions. The more aged you are, the more tendency you are likely to come up with such stuff. It's just like on a natural note, people who are aged over 70, you see they come up with arthritis. Let's even forget about maybe they are working in construction or not. So with age, arthritis is common, right? So that is how it is also, and when you are stressed, you are likely to come up with all this stuff. So even physical conditioning like lack of exercise, poor nutrition, poor sleep, generally unhealthy lifestyle, that is why it is advisable, at least once you engage in exercise, eat good food, not that you eat kubus morning, kubus afternoon, kubus night. So for those of us in Qatar, we understand what you're talking about. So you need good nutrition, you need good sleep, you need to sleep well, you need an healthy lifestyle, not eating junks and all that, adding more fats to your system. So those can really affect and aggravate such musculoskeletal disorder if one is being predisposed to it. So, and we know there are costs associated to all this, okay? Like I tried to say, there are some direct costs like diagnosis, surgery, rehab, so indirect will come from the turnover. We know what happens when people begin to miss work, absenteeism due to unreported injuries and all that. So some injuries are not reported, but these people could just complain, oh, I cannot come to work today, I cannot come to work tomorrow, and things like that. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So all those things. So also ongoing benefit costs, overtime use of cover lost or restricted loss days. Like I've said earlier, some people might miss job because of back pain. As a result, you have to take someone else to cover up for that maybe time or shift. So you end up paying overtime and all that. So at the end of the day, who it affects the organization or the company. So, and all this can also reduce the morale. When people begin to sick and all that, complain, the morale, the agility for people to work will not be there, and all this can also, when you become stressed and you come up with such kind of injury, this can also affect the product. Whatever the company is producing, let me just say maybe those companies went into a production section, you see, this can result to a lot of product damage, you know, and also we have some kind of bureaucratic costs of injury claim handling, like accident reporting, accident investigation, case management. All these things takes time. You know, like an incident that happened in my facility some weeks back. I know the stress. In fact, till date, I'm still passing through that stress, because when things happen like that, you discover that you want to enhance your requirements. You want to enhance a lot of things, you know, to put up some kind of strict measure to make sure that people comply. You know, so by doing that, you discover that you are putting more energy, you are even stressing yourself, even as a professional. Because for me, for the past 3 weeks, I know the kind of stress I've undergone from investigation, from reporting, from managing all that. Even till date, as I'm telling you, I really going through stress of that. So yeah, there are some kind of things that can happen. This was not a negligence from our own part as the facility management, but at least these contractors are coming in. So the fault was from them, but then it happened within our facility. So we still need to enhance some safety measure from our side. So that is why I passed through that. Okay, so we still have some key benefits of good ergonomics. Okay, reduce workers' compensation costs, reduce absenteeism, as we have said, increase productivity, increase morale, increase workers' quality or work quality. I think I will not want to go much on this, so that I want 1 or 2 persons to have their say on this discussion and contribution. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. You honestly have done justice to the topic, but just like you said, ergonomics is a very wide topic, and it's not something that you can cover entirely within these few minutes allocated to this program. So we have to add in my own take on this topic. First, we have to talk about ergonomic assessment. Assessing ergonomics or situations that will warrant illness as a result of ergonomics is paramount. It's very important, and it should be one of the first steps to be taken by every organization to ensure that the risk associated with ergonomics is entirely controlled. Because if things are not put in papers, or if things are not organized properly, we'll find it difficult to put controls on them. In the sense that as health and safety professionals, we might be seeing ergonomic issues, we might be seeing repetitive activities, but we've not had time, or we've not found it necessary to conduct an ergonomic assessment or ergonomic risk assessment. So what I'm advocating for is we should find time, and we should see it as a necessity to conduct a specific risk assessment where we'll be able to identify those activities that the people are prone to musculoskeletal disorders or other illness associated with ergonomics. So if these activities are identified, the risk associated with them are identified, and we recommend control measures. Most significantly, we should let people understand the need for job rotation or frequent break. Even just 1 minute of rest or break from that repetitive activity will go a very long way to ensure refreshment or to reset the body system. So in as much as you want to finish the task, or in as much as the task is very, very important, if you take just 1 minute of rest out of that repetitive activity, you will get refreshed, you will get energized, and your body system could be restored before continuing the activity. So we should encourage the team to see the need to encourage the workers to take frequent break. No matter how short it is, it will go in a very long way. Then the culture, the safety culture in the workplace plays a very vital role in this aspect, in the sense that this is one of the risks that are highly neglected because the effects are not immediate. Because the effects or because the outcome of this exposure are not immediate. So, for instance, if somebody falls from height, the effect is immediate. Either he breaks his leg or he breaks his hand or he has a head injury. It's immediate. But this cannot be felt immediately. It takes time. It accumulates. So that is why it's most times neglected. So as health and safety practitioners, I believe that we have a duty in this regard to enlighten the team and to bring this to the limelight, to let the team know that these workers that are engaged in this activity, after their contracts or after their projects, they have another life to live. And if they are not well taken care of, or if we neglect this risk they are prone to, then the life they have after this activity will become in shambles, or they will face a higher illness. Like arthritis goes with age, but other factors like the type of job they did before when they were young contributes to that. So we should bring this to limelight to let the management know that we are health and safety professionals. We are not only concerned about activities that can cause immediate danger, but we are also concerned about activities that can distort people's livelihood in future. So that is why this workshop today is very important, to bring this to limelight, because it seems it's hidden because of the effects are not so immediate or are not felt immediately. Now, one thing that we need to ask is, whose job is it to conduct ergonomic safety assessments? There are professionals that are trained for this, but as health and safety professionals, we have shallow knowledge, or I can say we have basic knowledge about this. We can research further in the case that you don't have these professionals, you don't have ergonomists, or you don't have a health and safety specialists in your workplace, or physical therapists who are supposed to conduct this ergonomic safety assessment. But you have this basic knowledge of what the activities that could cause ergonomic risk factors, and you know how frequently it's done, you know the people that are engaged. So you have the basic information required to conduct this assessment. You don't need to wait for the professionals to be employed or to get third parties. So you need to start from somewhere. So when you've evaluated the risk associated with them, and recommend your control measures, you let the management know that these are important to safeguard the life of these workers after this their youthful age. Okay, so I will give room for others to contribute so that it will not be only for me. Okay, Mr. Harrison.
It's Mr. Harrison here. Good evening, or good evening, Mr. Joseph and Mr. Stephen and every other person. Thank you so much for that wonderful section. That was really, really amazing. Okay, ergonomic is a very is an interesting topic, to discuss and to talk about, since it actually, it is directly with the workers and their working environments, with the tools they are using, their materials, equipment, and just like you said, we might not be the experts in that field, but I think the authority or those that are concerned, they've tried to, they've done enough by first and foremost considering the engineering aspect of ergonomics by designing work equipment, work tools to fit the worker. I think that we have that these days. Even up to the pen that we use, there are pen designed for those that are left-handed. These are all ergonomics because of the ergonomics. Okay, we have, for example, we look at the office chairs. The office chairs and office table, they are designed to meet certain level of ergonomics that would not, create a risk for the user, the office user. So I'm thinking as safety personnel that our parts, apart from the fact that we may have to observe those that are not taking good postures during their work activities on the site, apart from the fact that we need to check workstation on the site that are improvised or something, that they are auto standard to remove any risk that may be traced to ergonomics part postures. Okay, I believe that the procurement department will be highly influenced by the safety personnel or safety department in terms of what kind of tools, equipment, or materials that need to be procured, so as to able to get the right equipment that will not have ergonomic issue to the worker, to the end user, so to say, right? Okay, then one more thing I wanted to say. Is there any specific design for the workstation? Okay, because oftentimes we have these guys, either they are overreaching or they are bending too much, and all this boils down to ergonomic issues that will later have problem on their health or physical safety. Okay, is there any specific design of the workstation that we need to know about, so that we can be able to advise these guys on the side? No, you have to, design your workstation to this standard. For example, the work table. Okay, the work table, what could be the measurement of the work table? If we know, we can share it on this platform, so that by the time we get back to our various sites, we can advise. We can, try to observe this and advise on what they need to do. Thank you so much.
Let me just answer that to Mr. Harrison. Yes, that is why, from the, because when I was preparing for this, when I look at the workstation alone, is something that we can even treat 1 hour will not be enough. Okay, like Mr. Johnson have said, there are ergonomics who are experts in this field. But we could come up to share documents, and these documents are available in the public space where you see the measurement, because I intentionally did not put that particular image so that it will not just look like we are just focusing on office setting, because there you will see how it is in terms of image, how your hand, excuse me, please check this boy. I'm on the training section. So sorry for that, please. So you see that when you have a seat, your hand need to, not a seat that doesn't have an armrest. The seat should have an armrest, okay? And the way you position your computer, the size of the table, your leg, there's this a rest pad that your leg need to be on. So, but I don't want to really take our time on that, because there are measurements. Just like you've asked, there are a lot of things that cover workstation. Workstation alone is something that you can treat for even more than 1 hour. Okay, so maybe later, if I get the maybe some document or image regarding that, I can share with you on WhatsApp. Okay, so but I don't want to bug us so much, because we might spend that time on workstation without even talking about other things that affect and that is being affected with the use of tools and work equipment and all that. So that was why I did pour more light on that. Okay, so and another thing I want to point out again is that, see, you don't deal with ergonomics, you don't deal with ergonomics issue like this without talking about manual handling. Okay, you don't deal. For a reason I did not say it. I said when I'm contributing, I will say it. You understand? We know that manual handling alone, it's another topic on its own. You know, so whatever is applicable in manual handling, this will be brought in to ergonomics. As a matter of fact, all the regulation and guidelines under manual handling must be implemented in ergonomics as well. Okay, so I think that is what I have to say or contribute further.
Thank you so much, Mr. Steven. Thank you so much. Okay, one more thing. You know, we have a safe work procedure or safe system of work. Like, for example, the method statement. Let's talk about the method statement. Okay. Is it possible we as safety professional, we are doing the risk assessment as per the method statement to be so we can look out for if ergonomic issue has been identified, you know, risk assessed and controlled. Is it possible? Do we have this in our
of course, see, just like the way Mr. Johnson have said, you see, you don't need to be an ergonomist as a specialist for you to know that, for you to identify manual handling issues. Okay, for you to identify manual handling issues, please. So on this manual handling issues, okay, so when you are studying the method statement, it is our responsibility, even if it is not covered, okay, it is our responsibility to identify, because when some issues are not identified in the method statement, yes, sometimes we might just focus on the method statement, but the truth is that as an expert, we know what they want to do. Like me, most of my job, I review risk assessment method statements. Even as I'm telling you, since that incident happened, you know, I have done them before, but I decided to implement that. Every year, I must do it and do safety induction again. So I did it again for all the contractors. So they are bringing in their risk assessment and method statement. I have to study these things. So I always see a lot of discrepancies in the sense that some people will come and tell you blah, 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 and this is not what they are doing. You know, and some people will not nail the method statement based on the exact activity and effect which they are doing. So it is for us as an expert. That is why you see some safety professional, they develop the design method statements. But ideally, that's not supposed to be your work as an health and safety. But you should have the knowledge. Yes. You know, you should have the knowledge. Yeah. So because an engineer should be able to do that, from there you can be able to understand what they are going to do. But you know, to an extent, you cannot jump into them, you know, in concluding. But the truth is that when they say they want to do this thing, when you look at it as a professional from the picture side of it, you should know that this will involve manual handling, except they are going to take care of not using manual handling, okay, using another kind of method of lifting or things like that. So we can identify that, we can bring it upon the engineer that, this area, there will be manual handling, you've not addressed these issues on this activity you are going to do. Yeah, we can identify that and all that. It's a good thing as a professional to do that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Steven. Okay, I will just ask maybe one more question for me, please. Okay. With regard to site, we've already talked about you know, the office, okay, in terms of having chairs that are ergonomically that will ergonomically fit the user, the table, and the workstation being set perfectly to ensure that ergonomic issues are addressed. Okay. Now, there is one particular activity. There are several activities anyway, but there's this particular activity on the site where people have to, you know, bend all the time or stoop all the time. These tilers. Yes, I believe they have so many ergonomic issues while carrying out their activity. Can we briefly talk about that, please?
Yeah, of course. You know, yeah, of course. Definitely, all activities. You understand? Most of the activity will feel they are just normal. You know, just like even in the shopping mall, like I tell you, you know, you have to, you know, that's why you see if you go to the mall, you see there's this, I've forgotten what they call it. This thing helps to move your item to the person at the counter there to
like a conveyor.
Yeah, those stuff like that. So normally in those days there was nothing like that. Okay, so a lot of issues, that are being identified every day, and a lot of technology is being adopted to see how we can solve this problem. This problem, they will continue to exist. That's the reality. But the more they introduce technology, the more they can reduce the effect. Like you could see, there are some technology now. You see that there are some is it robot or whatever that can lay bricks. Okay. Now, if you could imagine, if these bricklayers or the masons, I would call them, you know how they do their work manually, right? They lift and give like this. They lift and do. So these are manual handling. Over years, this can cause a lot of injuries to the workers as well. But the truth is that largely that is what is being done. But at the manufacturing end, a lot of design, a lot of things are being done. It's just like we talk about drugs also. When a sickness comes out, there are people who are working, to make sure that they design an alternative method that can reduce the risk associated with such an activity. I don't know if there's any research, any development as regard tilers. How maybe they can design an equipment for them to be using to be doing their work. But for now, it still remains the way. It still remains the way
the activity is really, honestly,
yes,
really terrible.
But another thing again is that we can prevent such activity with PPE. We have a kind of what they call the wrist belts. As not wrist, as in waist belts. At least to prevent the area of the lower back injury within it, because this belt is designed is an ergonomic belt. Okay, you can put it, you wrap, you just like the way this one that women used to tie to flatten their tummy and all that. So it's just like that. You tie it around your waist while you carry out such activity. That can help at the moment to manage.
And also frequent rest.
Yeah, no, obviously that is why I said your manual. You cannot throw away your manual handling.
Exactly.
You understand? You must bring manual handling issues completely into ergonomics. So when you bring it in, you solve the issue, most of the issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. That was an amazing explanation. Thank you so much.
On that, I want to add a little to that explanation that Stephen gave. There is another practical step that can be taken as regards to the tilers. One is position of the tiles. These ergonomic issues now has to do with awkward position, bending, standing up, bending and standing up to pick tiles. And so if there is a working platform, which is almost the waist, almost at the height of the waist of the worker, where he can just stretch his hand, pick the tiles and fix it up without bending down and getting up again. So these are some practices that can be implemented at the workplace, just with initiatives which will reduce the twisting and the bending and the awkward movements, which will help reduce that effect.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. That was lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, the floor is open if someone else has something to say before we call it a day.
All right. Well, at this junction, I would want to really say a very big thank you to the three of you that has really spoken on this topic. At least you've been able to cover the four call area or subject area with regards to the hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear me. Yeah.
All right, with regards to the topic on ergonomy, which has to do with firstly the workstation, the workplace, the display system, the display screen equipment, and of course manual handling, which is key. In addition to the controls, which was recommended by, I think, Mr. Johnson. Actually, we cannot override or overrule the control of job rotation for the tilers. It's also a very good control. So, like as Mr. Steven has said, no matter the control you want to recommend, you must bring in that manual handling control measures. You must definitely bring it in. And for the method statement, actually, they don't consider all those things. What the engineer does is that they just prepare the method statement, and the method statement already has its content, it has its formwork, control frame, its structure. So based on their structure, what we extract as the HSC professionals is that we just take the sequence of work. We pick the sequence of work that is transferred to our job analysis template, which gives us the activity breakdown, job steps. Then for each of the steps, we want to identify the hazards. And of course, once we have been able to identify the hazard, we already know the control. So what we now do is, in the process of doing our analysis of the hazard, of course, we can identify if there is an ergonomic hazard. So most times when you look at their methods, they don't really capture ergonomic hazard, but it's up to the HSC practitioners to know that, yes, there's going to be a manual handling, maybe as a result of carrying one material load or the other, so which may involve maybe bending down, pushing, pulling, as the case may be. And I could see from the presentation, those stressors, I never knew the hazard could be, ergonomic hazard could be also called the stressors. It's something I've learned today, thanks to Mr. Steven. Those stressors actually are the workplace hazard of ergonomy. For example, the repetitive motion, the awkward position. So these are some of the common ergonomic hazard in the workplace. We could result to the low back pains, and of course, musculoskeletal disorder pain. Some of them could be acute, some chronic, as you have explained. And sharing from my place of work, this ergonomic hazard for us has been overlooked. We've overlooked it, for a very long time. Then recently we noticed that within a week, we recorded, I think, about 3 incidents, which has to do with ergonomy. You understand? Then my senior manager immediately, started emphasizing on ergonomy. Myself and him, we're discussing around it, and we discovered that, yes, we have never considered ergonomy hazard in all the operations, on site with regards to the job safety analysis. And that dawned on us. Immediately we started doing campaigns, during 2-boss meeting, start discussing about ergonomy. We start reviewing job safety analysis, for those activities where we know that, of course, there could be chances or possibility of ergonomic risk. We started identifying all those, putting the control, most especially administrative controls. So we recommended all that. So having said this, I would say, yes, everyone has spoken highly well about the subject. And I think all the areas has been touched, has been addressed. And considering the time we have, of course, it's a very vast topic. This is just an interaction. And I think the key things we need to remind ourselves about and to take back to our workplace, all that has been said. Thank you. This is my contribution.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just say one thing, Mr. Johnson, please. I remember Mr. Harrison was saying something about procurement. Okay. Let me just add it. In a well-standard company. Okay, because that skipped my mind. But I know you made mention about something about procurement. That is why when you find yourself in a will I say proper or standardized organization, you discover that the procurement, they don't just work alone. You understand? So when you look at even the how the I think when we were doing this IOSH, I think this our assessment also, there was some question about this ESG something, you know, how this framework was designed. You discover that you don't, there the governance and all that comes in. You discover how you must incorporate safety into the process of procurement. So there are a lot of training, there are a lot of webinars that have been encouraging such. Okay, as a procurement department, you don't work alone. You must work with safety, you know, because when you want to go and procure maybe safety helmet, how do you know the proper helmet to buy? You want to buy safety shoe. How do you know the proper? So that is why we from the health and safety department, we must be confident with some certain things. You know, when it comes to tools, when it comes to equipment, that is where we can even give advice on certain kind of equipment that has more advanced technology to reduce, because that will be our point. Because if people get injured, the company will spend more money, you know, in dealing with this issue. But if we spend money to buy more a good equipment that can prevent such injury, you discover that you save more at the long run. So I think that is where I want to pour more light on. Safety, procurement, they work together. Then also to add to it from my personal side, please, for those of us who are IOSH member, please and please, campaign is on. So this is part of my campaign. I'm coming out as a council member of IOSH. You know, so we have about 17 people on the election list. So there are, I think we are going to make about, I think 11 or 12, I can't remember, that will go through to be a member of the council for this coming here. So please, for those of us who are members of IOSH, please try to make sure that you will receive an email from IOSH, obviously from 5th of September. They will share the link for voting to be open. But for us as a candidate, the campaign is open. So we are campaigning massively. For those who have not followed me or connect with me on LinkedIn, please try to do that. On your personal this thing, you can reshare my post. At least at the end of the post, just put IOSH Council. You know, this is a mandatory requirement. You must read the hashtag IOSH Council. So please go up there to your LinkedIn, support me, repost, let your connection. Just write so many things that you know about me or you want to comment about me. Just do that so that your followers will also see who are IOSH members to endorse me and elect me for the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. We'll do our part as team members of Safeoclock. We'll do our part to ensure that we elect Stephen to represent us in IOSH Council. So if one of us is there, so whatever recommendation or whatever suggestion we raise here, we are sure that it can get to the IOSH Council. So we'll do our part. And with that note, I want to thank everyone who has participated actively today. The discussion was very interesting and I learned a lot. So I'm sure that you learned a lot too. So thank you for coming. Thank you for making it a day today. And above all, ensure that you keep your team safe, ensure that you keep your workers safe and be safe as well. Be safe as well at your workplace. So safety is everybody's responsibility and it's our major responsibility to ensure that everyone goes home safely after work. So thank you for coming today and see you again next week, Thursday. Follow us on our social media pages so that we'll be able to reach others who are not able to join us today. All right, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Stephen, Mr.
Thank
David,
you,
and everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you
very much.
Mr. David.
Sorry, please. I would like to ask one question with regards to Mr. Stephen, your last comment or statement.
Okay.
Please, you know, on this platform, some of us actually are not in Qatar. Maybe we are registered, we are a member of IOSH, and we are not under the IOSH Qatar branch. So is this still possible for members who are not members of Qatar branch to vote for you?
Of course, of course. You see, this election is not about Qatar branch. IOSH is a global organization, okay? The essence of Qatar branch is for us to identify, right? So even this Safeoclock, yes, we know majority of us are in Qatar, but people join from Nigeria, people join, you are joining from where? You see, so basically it's just that in IOSH, they try to make different chapters, you know, or branches, so that people can really identify with themselves. You know, before the COVID issue in Qatar, people used to meet face to face, you know, but the COVID issue made everything, you know, now people just even feel lazy to meet one-on-one. They just go do their branch meeting and CPD presentation on every monthly through Zoom and all that. So it's really a network where people can network, meet each other, you can connect, you know, in terms of job opportunity and all that. And it doesn't matter that because you are not in Qatar, you can decide to be part of Qatar IOSH branch. Because now the way things are done, there is no requirement that you must be working in Qatar. If you feel you love what you are doing in Qatar as a branch, since 90% of the activity is done virtually, you can be part of IOSH Qatar branch. You don't need to vote for me because you are not IOSH Qatar branch, right? So even people in Nigeria who are IOSH member can vote for me. People in the UK who are IOSH member, I have a lot of guys in the UK. They will obviously vote for me. And that doesn't mean because, so it's not restricted, it's open. There are people I also vote for. My mentor, there's a woman that mentored me from Ireland. Okay, she was my mentor during my CPD, towards my process of becoming CM IOSH. And also she's coming out as a council member, you see? So even I went to her wall, I share a post, mentor and mentee, you know, I just made some comments there. So this thing, you know, it attracted a lot of stuff like that and all that. So that is it. Just encourage, even in where you are, those people who are members of IOSH, encourage them, talk to them, let them do something.
So can an individual vote for dual candidates?
Yes. You have up to the maximum number the maximum number of seats within the council. I think up to 11 or 12, I can't remember precisely. You can vote multiple now, more than one person. So once you vote, when you get to the maximum, you will tell you already you are the maximum. You cannot choose more than.
Okay. Okay, I see.
No, you can choose
no
more
problem.
than. It's not only one representative. We have about 11 to 12 representatives.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. You have our 100% support. You know, you have our 100% support, and definitely will campaign for you. Sure.
Thank you.
You have my word on this.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
So we'll take it to the next level of campaign.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Mr. Stevie, you are already there.
Thank you very much.
There's nothing to worry about.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Steven, we are just waiting for you to kick the ball rolling, because actually, you know, I missed the last session. So I watched the recorded clip, and I saw at the end of the session where you actually cascaded the same information. So I've been wanting to really have this conversation with you. Yeah. However, I can also canvas for you in the Nigerian branch as well as other platforms that I'm part of.
Okay, I will share some information on you on WhatsApp on how to go about the canvassing and all that. So at least not to breach the electoral.
I understand those. Yeah, I understand those laws and all that. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand all that.
It's okay.
I've done it before. I've done it before for some friends. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the effort you put.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, at least maybe we'll call it a day, right?
Yes, we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm glad I did it today.